how to actually work with astrology, integrate it into your life in a way that is helpful and useful and productive.
For me, if you're like whittling it down to one thing, to your sun, or just your rising or just your moon, you fall into that pitfall.
Part of what drew me into astrology and keeps me in astrology is the magic of it all.
What does this mean vibrationally for us? How are we going to level up? It's uncharted waters right now.
We absolutely take into account Mercury retrogrades for sure, because we've definitely learned the hard way. Maybe not the best timing.
And you're in control, which is what I actually really love about astrology.
Fear and the resistance to it doesn't do anything to actually help the experience of the transit.
Life is meant to be joyful and playful and easeful and loving.
If it's not helpful to you, if it doesn't feel right in your body, then just put it aside.
I'm a part of this bigger cosmic timing, and okay, how do I apply this in my life? Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Astrology Hub podcast. Today we have a really special, different kind of episode. One of the things we've been talking about as a team is how to actually work with astrology, integrate it into your life in a way that is helpful and useful and productive versus ways that you can kind of get tripped up by the astrology and maybe paying too much attention to it and or not enough attention to it. So there's just a conversation that we wanted to have with our community, because one of the things we love doing is not only giving the information about what the astrological tides are saying, but then also giving tools for how to actually integrate that into your life to live a better life. So here we are with Laura Orcutt, and Laura is our Director of Operations at Astrology Hub. She's also an astrologer. She's incredible and just like in amazingly intelligent and capable, and definitely one of my absolute right hand wing women at Astrology Hub. So Laura's here to have this conversation with us. And then we also have Jana Stern, and she is an Inner Circle member. She's been with us for 6 or 7 years in the Inner Circle. She's also a psychic, an astrologer, and a spiritual activator. So she has lots of experience working with astrology in her life as well. Plus, between us, we have a lot of experience witnessing how others in our community are using it as well. So, welcome to the conversation, everybody. I'm so happy you're here. And let's just start here with a little bit of a conversation around how long you've been working with astrology in your life, and also how you do it. Like the nuts and bolts. Do you listen to podcasts? Do you look at the ephemeris yourself? Like, how do you actually use it in your day-to-day life? So, Jana, let's start with you. How long have you been using astrology in your life, kind of as a tool for day-to-day living? And why did you get into it? Like, what spurred it?
I love this question. I think I've been actively using astrology since 2015, but I'm incredibly lucky because my entire life, my whole religion is based on the moon and where she is and where she's moving. So following the stars has part of my destiny. It's part of my life. It's been part of my practice all of my life. But really dialing in with astrology is something that I think I've been pretty serious about since 2015. And it did begin with me, of course, and understanding myself and really digging in, and then figuring out how is where everything is affecting me and affecting others. And pretty quickly, as I started to learn, I began to understand that the lens through which I was looking was extraordinarily helpful to help me navigate where I was in time and space and what I was processing, what I was going through. And every little transit was affecting something in me. And then I could have these conversations, these really deep Piscean conversations. My sun is in Pisces, where I would get the depth of people and be like, well, did you know that this is happening right now in the stars? And isn't that funny? And the more that I watched it in the sky, the more that I was like, whoa, the collective really is moving with this thing. And then I started to really be like, okay, I better take this seriously because it seems pretty serious. And that's kind of how I landed in Astrology Hub. I was like, what's going on here? These people seem like they know what they're doing. There's some serious teachers in here I got to get good with. So let me just go all the way in.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And like, give us the nuts and bolts. How do you stay in tune? Like, just give us a smattering of ways that like keep you in the loop of what's happening in real time.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, there are apps and text messages and things like that that come my way every day that I'm checking in with to make sure that I understand why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling? What can I tap in with a little bit deeper? Where are the parts of my body, of my spirit, of all of those things that I can go a little bit deeper with? But sometimes, I mean, one of the things that I do quite often is that I look at the charts of the people in my life and it helps me to ascertain why are the way they are right now, especially when I'm triggered. I'm like, oh, right. I see. This thing is affecting this, and therefore it's responding with me this way. And then I often will look at, the composite chart and okay, well, how is that affecting both of us? And what is playing out here? What is the cosmic message that I'm playing, human in, that I'm feeling in my own consciousness about, that I'm in my head about? But actually, there's something much bigger going on. There's something much greater going on. And so I kind of use their charts and my chart and the current transits to understand what's at play from a bigger perspective in all of it.
How do you avoid, like what about the argument that people use astrology as an excuse to be jerks or to kind of like justify bad behavior? How do you walk that line of like, okay, I'm understanding why I feel this way, but that doesn't excuse the fact that I just like went off on my child, or I'm giving you an
Right.
example.
Right. I
Yeah.
don't have any of those, so I'm good. Don't you worry about me, girl.
Okay.
But yeah, I think this is where usually what I say to that is we are our entire chart. So it's not that I'm singly faceted, I'm multifaceted. And so, yes, I mean, no matter how you slice it, we know that all Geminis are really like that, right? We know that, and we know what that means. And there are many different versions of like that
Mm,
that exist in every single Gemini, and each one of them expresses themselves differently because of their own full and entire chart. So
mhm,
for me, if you're like whittling it down to one thing, to your sun, or just your rising or just your moon or whatever, you fall into that pitfall. But
mm.
it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper, and we get so caught up in that. But I think also on some level, we need a why for the way that we are. We all live in this world with such intense lack and this feeling of not enoughness. And I think that astrology like pours into, no, actually, you were just designed this way. It's
Mm.
okay that you are how you are. And if you need to lean on that a little bit, be mindful about how much you lean and how much you like use it as a crutch. But also, if it helps you to stand a little bit taller with the crutch, then like hold it.
Hmm. I like that. Yeah. Laura, how about you?
Well, I love what Jane is saying about the behaviors because I feel like what I say to my child, my toddler all the time is like, you're allowed to have the feeling, but the behavior is not okay. You can have the feeling, but you can't be mean. And so I feel like with astrology, it's similar, where it like gives you the awareness that, okay, I'm having this feeling, I'm reacting this way because of this, but it gives you the self-awareness to maybe choose to act a little bit differently or choose to act in the more elevated way of the stereotype of your sign. So
Mm.
I love that you're saying that, Gina. Um, Astrology for me, I started using it in 2018 pretty regularly. And like Jana, it started as a self-reflection practice. And it just helped me really understand myself better, go through life feeling like I always knew there was something more to me, or there was like something that's not expressing of me. And astrology really gave me the language to live it and to give myself permission to live it. And then I just started tracking the moon. And I think something else, Jana, that you said sparked something in me that not every like transit or every thing that's happening in the sky is going to affect your chart. Like you're not going to feel everything so deeply, but it helps you understand other people in your life, or it helps you be an observer. Like if someone else is acting a certain way, knowing where certain things are in the sky is going to help you just support them better, or just have more context to deal with them better, or to connect with them better. So I feel like it started as like a self-reflection practice for me and has really morphed into just this whole lens through which I view the world and the people in my life, and just gives me another language to really navigate life with. And I always say, like, I don't know how I did life without this, and I don't know how people do life without it now, just especially in the times that we're in now. Like not having the context would be really scary. So I'm really grateful that I have it.
Hmm. Yes, I've had that thought so many times in the last
Same.
5 years. Just like, wow, I'm so glad I know what's going on astrologically. Because the thing that, and just to add to not getting stuck in letting us, like astrology be the thing that excuses, I'm going to use, kind of probably some of the language you might use with Timothy, Laura, but not excusing mean behavior or, bad behavior, for lack of a better term, is I love that it gives us the awareness. Like here's what's happening. Here's what the waves of the ocean are doing. Here's what the cosmic waves are doing. And you decide. You decide. You can decide to let it be the thing that
Mhm.
just justifies you being a jerk today, or you can take it into account and you can make decisions from there. To me, it feels the opposite of the disempowering thing, where you're just sort of like, oh, well, the astrology said this, so I'm going to go with it. It's like, well, the astrology says this, so now with that awareness, I get to choose.
Mhm.
And that choice to me is very empowering versus like, I have no idea why I feel this way. I have no idea like how I could be seeing this situation from another perspective. It's just happening, and I'm just at the mercy of it, right? There's
Mhm.
just different perspectives, and I feel like before astrology was in my life, I would fall more into the, it's just the way it is, and it's just, I don't know why it's this way, but it is this way, and I don't really know what to do with that. So, what about like how intricate do you get? Like I know there's people that will not make a decision, will not book anything on their calendar, will not book a trip, will not, do anything without consulting the astrology first. And then there's others who like hold it more lightly. And then literally I was just talking to Natasha Alter, who is, my astrological fairy godmother. And I was asking her what would be ideal timing to launch the book that we have been working on for a while now. And she goes, you know, I don't really look at that very much anymore. Like I really don't. I just don't, I really just trust my intuition. And I think that's a whole range and spectrum. And I know for myself, astrology has helped me feel even more confident in my intuition to be able to make decisions from that place. But we can go there next. But how intricate do you two get in your consulting of the stars?
Go ahead, Laura.
I don't get intricate at all, actually, in my consultation of the stars. I take it in as information, but I don't let it rule. Part of what drew me into astrology and keeps me in astrology is the magic of it all, and how it's so divinely architected, and better than I could ever do myself. So part of me feels like if I were to get so complicated with it and so caught up in like what's the moon doing, what's this doing, then I would lose that magic, or it'd be all up in my head and it wouldn't be embodied. And I don't know, you leave space for magic when you let something happen. And I also think that we're born on this planet. Our soul has, contracts that we have a birthright. And I feel like some challenges and some things are just meant to be worked through, and you can't astrology your way out of it. And so I feel like, use it as information, but don't let it limit you. Like I got married in 2020, and our marriage chart, I think an electional astrologer would be like, why did you choose this chart? But it doesn't bother me. I just feel like it is like a mark of our relationship. It's like a badge of honor. It's like, because as humans, we want to like categorize things as good and bad. And like, I just don't think that that's really how the universe speaks through us, or I just think there's more to it than the compartments that we want to put things in. So I like to look at where the moon is. I like to honor that archetype, but beyond that, I really just listen to my gut.
Laura, what do you mean by honor that archetype? Give us an example.
Yeah, so if the moon's in Pisces, I may focus on my feet, or I might listen to moody music, or get escape through movies or something like that. If it's in Aries, I might want to move my body a little bit more. And so it's you don't have to know astrology. You don't even have to know the aspects in a chart. If you just know the archetypes, you can kind of just play with them a little bit through music, through media, through activities, through connecting with others. And it just kind of makes it come to life a little bit more.
What does that do for you? Like, why would you even bother doing that?
I just feel like it puts the wind beneath my sails a little bit more, like it's not, it feels like I'm kind of rowing with the current instead of like against it, or it's a way that astrology can be embodied for me. And I just like any opportunity to like get my head out of the chart and out of the books to like really feel it. And it's a fun way to learn the archetypes too. It's a fun way to like engage with it. And so, you're never bored if you're like, what should I do right now? Okay, where's the moon? What's an activity that goes with that archetype? Let's do that. You know?
Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Jana? How intricate do you get? How detailed?
Hmm. Yeah, I get intricate, but in a funny way. Um, I let myself, very much like what Laura was saying, like I let myself be guided by my intuition first and foremost, and it's going to take me wherever it takes me. And, I try to be mindful about, okay, is Mercury retrograde? Should I really be getting on a plane? What kind of complexities are going to happen if and when I do? And how can I be prepared? So I think about it that way. But where I get really intricate with it is, I've been thinking a lot lately about frequency and the frequency of the planets and the frequency of our bodies and of the hertz of this earth, and then the frequency of everything that we're constantly moving. And we were talking before we started about how things are transforming and changing. And if you watch the Schumann resonance, you guys know what the Schumann resonance is? Yeah. So if you
Why don't
watch,
you explain it just in case anyone in the audience doesn't?
so the Schumann resonance is the vibration of our planet, which vibrates between 7 to 15 hertz ish. And lately, the measurements have been off the charts, as in we can't calculate the vibration of our planet right now because we are ascending, thank God. And so, as we do, it's very hard to calibrate to what the new vibration is, to what the new frequency of our planet is. We literally haven't even created something to measure it yet. And
Hmm.
so, as we figure that out, that's what has me dial into the planets and where they're moving. And sometimes I mean, it's always about the moon because she's going to affect us most deeply, right? In our emotions and ourselves and in the monthly cycles, particularly as a woman, like, we go through a cycle, she goes through a cycle. I definitely feel my cycle. I definitely feel hers. So, like, that resonates. Everything you were saying, Laura, I was like, yes, 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 yes. And then, when the planets move into new, when they ingress, and then I'm like, okay, what does this mean vibrationally for us? How are we going to level up? How is our frequency of the planet and of individuals going to shift? And there are some people who are vibrating quite high, but there are others who are not yet. And they will all reach ascension, perhaps some in incarnation and others out of incarnation. um, but humanity will get there. And as we do, I'm dialed into where are things changing vibrationally, and how are those sort of like chords from the universe being plucked so that we can figure out, or at least I can figure out as my like huge open, self, how can I receive everything, as where are we guiding? Where are we going? Where are we navigating to next? Because it's uncharted waters right now. We don't know where the hell we are. We've never been here before. And it is massive question marks as to where we're going. But everything is frequency, everything is vibration. So, okay, let me at least pay attention to what every ancestor of every culture has ever done, which is let me look up what's going on up there. Right. And like that just helps me to be like, okay, I'm in a body and it's okay.
Mm. It reminds me of how the Polynesians found the Hawaiian Islands with
Mm.
with the stars, and it's That's how the ocean was navigated. That's how the tides were navigated. That's how people got places. And so we're basically doing the same thing, even though we're not in canoes, even though we're not in boats, we're still doing the same thing, looking up, using the stars to navigate our path forward. And in that way, it is true celestial navigation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a range here. Laura doesn't pay as much attention on like a daily basis.
Yeah, on a daily basis. I will agree though about the Mercury retrograde. I definitely pay attention to those and plan around those. I have worked a lot with Mercury cycles, and that's definitely something to watch for. But for the most part, on a daily basis, I don't.
Well,
Amanda,
and
what about you?
yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, even when we sit down to plan the year for Astrology Hub, we absolutely take into account Mercury retrogrades for sure, because we've definitely learned the hard way. I have to say, I want I want to say 100% of the time, and Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, 100% of the time that we have hired someone during Mercury retrograde, it has not worked out for whatever reason. I mean, it's not always that they're like they didn't work out. The circumstances didn't work out. Like there were so many things. So at this point, I'm at 100% no hiring during Mercury retrograde policy. Just if and who knows? Maybe they wouldn't have worked out anyways, but it's just there's something about that energy that just doesn't seem to work out. I the way that I think of it is I like nod to it. It feels like a nod or like a drum beat in the background of my life.
Mm,
And mainly that's the bigger transits that I'm sort of paying attention to the big, Pluto moving into Aquarius, the big Saturn moving into Aries, the big Jupiter moving into Cancer, like these, and I ride them. Like when Jupiter went into Gemini, uh, Jupiter's in Gemini in my chart. And so I went, okay, Jupiter's in Gemini, so I'm going to have a Jupiter return. This thing lasts about a year and Gemini's writing. And so maybe this is the wave I want to catch to like finish my book finally. So that's what I did. Like I feel like I like catch these waves and they're the bigger ones. And then the daily astrology, like when our cosmic pulse texts come in, the daily astrology for me is just like a nod to it. And it can
mm,
be a oh yeah, that explains things. And oh yeah, thanks for that reminder. And oh yeah, maybe I don't initiate that really like big challenging conversation today when the cosmic pulse just said that like things are going to be super tense and people might be edgy. It's like, yeah, that's not really the energy I want for this particular conversation. So it's there and it's informing, like Laura used the word informing. It's informing, but it's not dictating, but it really does create like a scaffolding in my life. And I like build and create within the scaffolding of the planetary movements. And I've experienced the hard way not paying any attention, where like we'll plan something big, and then I look back and it doesn't go as planned, or does, it's much more challenging than it should have been. And we look back and go, oh, like, that was like probably the most intense eclipse portal we could have ever planned, this massive event where we're trying a bunch of new things all at the same time. Maybe not the best timing. Um, Definitely with travel. Definitely just, I mean, again, like for the book launch, I'm like, you know what, this is a big thing. I should probably like at least take it into a consideration, not let it dictate the timing of all this, but I would kind of like some smooth waters for that instead of, entering right into the eye of into the middle of a storm, for example.
mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's there. I've gone in the over. I've used it too much in my opinion, like for me personally, and I've used it too little for me
Mm.
personally. So it's always about just finding that like middle ground where it's like, yeah, this is good. This feels good.
I will say that those cosmic pulse texts help so much in exactly that way to help me to be like, to check myself in the astrology because sometimes I get really lost in my humanity. And those little messages do exactly that. They can rein me in to be like, don't go there, girl. Or they can really help to push me to be like, this is an opportunity. You have this available today, right now. And
Mhm.
so I look forward to them every day. And they're like, They do. They bring me to this like the astrology is real moment every day, which is such a nice, just kind of nod from you guys, but really from the universe, just being like, all is well and you're on the right path and you're in control, which is what I actually really love about astrology, is that it does make me feel like in this world of chaos, I have one teeny tiny tool that the more I understand about the archetypes and the, how things are moving and what they're meaning, that I have a little bit more control to make decisions from a more informed place than if I didn't have it.
Mhm. Yeah, we can use that. We can use every bit of help that we can get, right?
Totally.
Yeah, I often wonder, like, why, this has been my question since my first reading. Why doesn't everybody know about this? Why doesn't everybody use this? I mean, and now even in running Astrology Hub for almost 10 years, like, why wouldn't every entrepreneur, every business person, everyone that is like stewarding anything, why wouldn't it at least be a part of the decision-making process just to like increase your odds?
I
You
think
know?
because we've not been taught to be powerful.
Hmm. Hmm. It's also been poo-pooed quite a bit.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, there we go. Yes. Laura, anything else you want to add about like your daily rituals or ways that you've integrated it, or like either gone too far or too not enough?
Yeah, well, one thing I see people do often, and I've been caught in this trap too, is people getting fearful of transits. And I think this is a big one for a lot of people, is they'll see a big transit like Pluto crossing your ascendant, Uranus crossing the descendant, like these big ones that are like something bad's going to happen. And they get fearful of it. And I don't think that, I think one, if you're studying astrology, you're way farther ahead than the normal person going through this transit. So you're like way better off. But two, fear and the resistance to it doesn't do anything to actually help the experience of the transit. So, like in my experience, what makes a transit worse is resistance, right? So, if you're having a big Uranus transit and you're resistant to change, it's going to make it a lot harder. Pluto transit, you're resistant to looking at yourself, it's going to make it a lot harder. Even a Venus transit, if you're resistant to really like looking at your relationships, it's going to make it a lot harder. And so I think the fear that happens, it builds this like wall around us that makes us not really able to like receive the gifts of the transit in a way that we are meant to, or a way that can be productive. So I would just say that being fearful or resistant of transits that are coming your way to your chart, or tracking them so closely and reading all these horror stories and diving so deep into like what's going to happen, what happened to you, that I think is a huge pitfall. And sometimes you just need to keep an open mind and let it wash over you and just be like, I'm ready, universe, like give it to me. And I feel like that's the best way to handle it as best you can. I know everyone's circumstances are different, but as someone with Pluto on her ascendant right now, I feel like that has been the best way to handle it. And fear has not done a single thing to help me. So I've been guilty of this too. I think everyone at some point has, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're tracking it so closely, that it doesn't rule you, and it's happening for your benefit. I do believe the universe is benevolent in that way. So
How about you? This is a big one. This is a really big one. And I know that it is one of the potential pitfalls of paying attention to the astrology, because partially it's like, well, if you didn't know, then you wouldn't anticipate it and you wouldn't freak out about it and you wouldn't be looking at every single astrology book that says whatever it says about Pluto and how, challenging that can be, for example. But like once you have the information, it can be hard not to fall into that trap. So, Jana, do you have experience with this? Do you have any tips that
Mhm.
you've worked with?
Yeah, I have a Gemini moon. I can overanalyze like a baddie. um, yeah, I've definitely been caught in times where I'm almost like sort of stuck being like a slave to the stars, like, oh, this is happening, so I shouldn't, or this might be coming, and so I need to like purge and prepare and practice and do this and do that, all because of this one thing that is coming. And so yeah, Laura, what you were sharing about the anxiety of it all is like really intense. And yes, Amanda, you're correct that like if we didn't know, maybe ignorance would be bliss, but it would still be affecting us, right? And that the effect would be on happening on a more unconscious level, right? But there has certainly been times where I was just unwilling to make a move if the astrology didn't make it seem like it was okay. And it's this kind of, for me, this dependence on like a sky daddy to make it
Hmm.
make sense. And if it didn't all exactly perfectly line up and feel completely within my control, I just wasn't going to go anywhere. I wasn't going to do anything as long as it didn't sort of work with my chart, so to speak.
Hmm.
And, I think I've maybe missed opportunities or avoided things in my life because it was easier to not navigate it than it was to go a little bit deeper and feel into it. And
Hmm.
as opposed to being like, well, the astrology says, so therefore I don't really need to go there because it's not good for me astrologically, which is like, it's so performative, it's not really, there's no depth to that.
Oof, yeah. Have you ever had a transit that via the textbooks would be potentially horrifying? That wasn't. That, you went through it and you're like, oh my God, that wasn't even like half as bad as what I thought it might be. You ever had that experience?
I mean, Saturn and I have been having a dance of late in the past couple of years. And typically that's like a really, um, big one that can play a lot of tricks and do a lot of really intense work. And Saturn transited over my son for a little while there when he was back in Pisces. And when he moved off of my son, the day he moved, I was like, okay, this has been a super intense time. There was a lot going on. And is it okay if I share a personal story?
Yeah,
Okay,
please.
it's
Yeah.
personal. So, um, my father had been wandering the streets of Florida homeless, and I did not know where he was. And the day that Saturn moved off of my son, I remember crossing the bridge in Florida at my grandmother's house and screaming out loud and saying, okay, Daddy Saturn, where is my daddy? Where are you, Dad? Come on home. And it was the full moon, and less than 48 hours later, he showed up at my grandmother's front door. And, you know, I, I was like, there is no way that this is not literally Saturn in action. And that might be, I mean, it has been incredibly intense and there's been a lot of aftermath from that. But that that transit could have been something that resulted in something horrific in that way. And it actually was kind of a miracle. So maybe that's like kind of an example of that.
I mean, and for those of you who don't know, which most of our audience probably does, but Saturn is the father. So
That's
the
right.
fact that your Saturn story was literally about your dad, like that's already, it's sometimes it's so literal. It's not
Yeah.
even like metaphorical. It's just literal interpretation applied to life. Yeah.
Right. And would I have known that and experienced it that way if I didn't know that Saturn was moving off of my son that day? Would I have screamed to the heavens and would he have shown up? I don't know.
Mm.
Right.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll never know, but that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Laura, how about you?
So I've had a number of Pluto transits to my chart, and I won't say that they haven't been challenging, but looking back on them, they've definitely been fruitful, and they've definitely given me a lot of gifts and have also made me who I am today. So in retrospect, I look back and I'm grateful for them. So I just want to say that sometimes in the moment it doesn't look exactly like where you're going, like the journey is long. So I just want to say that. But I've recognized this in client charts too. When I was first starting to read charts, I would, do like a mini reading and then go back to a teacher and, ask my questions. And I remember one very vividly where Uranus had crossed the descendant, which is the seventh house cusp of this person. And I knew that must have been big, Uranus on the angles, but at the time I didn't quite know. And my teacher was like, well, it's great that you didn't scare this person because sometimes this is associated with, really challenging things with the spouse. It could be death, it could be a lot of different things. And so it just but for her that was not the case at all. She was thriving. She was like getting ready to have a baby. They were moving into a new house. Like it couldn't be more different than like the textbook interpretation. So it's just another thing, another note that if you're reading charts for other people, to not assume that a challenging transit means something bad, because had I said something to scare her, that would have been really detrimental. But But yeah, there's gift in every transit. So even if it doesn't look like it in the moment.
Mm. Yeah. And often it doesn't look like that in the moment. I've been really playing with how do I enjoy and appreciate and be grateful for things even while I'm in it, not having to wait until after when I realize that, oh, well, this is probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, even the Pluto's been dancing on my Sun and Venus for years. And literally the meat of the book that I will be publishing soon is from when Pluto first entered Capricorn in 2008, all the way until the end of Pluto being in Capricorn, which was just activating a big, huge, important part of my chart. And and in it, I mean, there were so many times in it where I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Like my life is a disaster, right? And now, like being on this end of it, it's like, wow, that literally, if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't be having this conversation here today. I wouldn't live in Hawaii. I wouldn't have the children that I have and the way that I have them. None of it would look like this. So I think the trick and the invitation for all of us, and this is way easier said than done, is while we're in it, to still find the gratitude for it, even when it's really uncomfortable and it looks really messy. And again, I'm saying that to myself as much as I'm saying that to anybody else because it is not easy to maintain that while we're in the midst of these, big transformations. But I was thinking, speaking of stories, I was thinking, my gosh, wouldn't it be awesome to create a book of stories around each of these kinds of transits and get people's stories so that while you're in it, you can be reminded of, oh, wow, there's a lot of different ways this could look. Oh, wow, there's a lot of different ways I could respond to this. Oh, wow, there's a lot of different ways that this could result in my life. And I don't know about all of you, but stories have just always inspired me. It's like, okay, there's other ways to do this. I don't have to think about this as the worst case scenario.
Yeah. I think first of all, we've survived as a species on stories.
Yeah.
It's really all we are, is just a story.
Yes.
And I think this is where that piece of you are your whole chart really comes into play, because how it might express in one person is not necessarily how it's going to express in you. And so fearing it in that way, you make an assumption about yourself and then you kind of pigeonhole yourself into something. Then you create a reality with your words, with your fears, that becomes a sort of destiny, but it's only part of what your destiny could be if you just expanded. So yeah, telling stories and hearing other people's stories, it'd be a fun thing to do, in the community, to just be like asking everybody, give us a story that goes against the grain, because we need to have the inspiration right now.
Yes, we've done that. I've
Cool.
seen whole conversations happening around like I'm in a Saturn transit. Anybody else had this one? What's it like? And just for all of you who are wondering we've been talking about this texting thing that we have as a company. This has been something that has been for inner circle members only for the last, I don't know, 7 years. And we're now making it available to everybody. So if you would like to have just like an awareness of the astrological transits as they're happening, if you don't want to have to check an app or blogs or podcasts in order to stay in tune, then you can try the Cosmic Pulse. So the Cosmic Pulse you can try for 14 days free. And you're going to get a daily text that gives you the information about the most important transit of that day, and then with little tips on how to work with it. So this is just an easy, light, fun way. It's if you decide to go more than the 14 days, it's only 16 cents a day. So it's $4.99 a month. We just wanted to make it easy and light for you to stay in tune with the astrology and start to use it on a daily basis in a way that doesn't require a whole lot of time and energy from you. And I think that also enables it to stay just a nod to the astrology, right? Like it comes in, you're like, oh, cool. I'm a part of this bigger, like cosmic timing. And okay, how do I apply this in my life today? So yeah, you can go to astrologyhub.com/pulse if you want to check that out and try it on. I thought of one more way that I've always worked with the astrology. And this is the way I started. It's the new and the full moon. I mean, I've always like scoured podcasts and blogs and whatever to get the read on the new moon,
Mm.
and then used those themes to the best way I can think of it is like organize my spiritual focus, like my spiritual growth. Like if it's Leo new moon, maybe I'm going to focus on expression and authentic expression and generosity. If it's Scorpio, maybe I'm going to like embrace the transformation and the depth and some of those things even more than usual. So just keeping those again, that drumbeat, as set by the moon, which really does impact a lot. Is there anything else either one of you want to say about like tips for working with it and or pitfalls to just be mindful of on this path?
Yeah, I would say don't take it too seriously. Life is really huge and cosmic and also tiny and so personal, and we're supposed to experience all of it and have a good time in it. Like life is meant to be joyful and playful and easeful and loving, and it's important that we make that part of the study of whatever it is that's going on up there. And, if it starts to get too serious, then you're probably needing to just reel it back a little bit and take it a little less seriously, um, because it's really meant to be a game. It's really meant to be a play that we're all kind of acting out in, I think. And so, yeah, just, be with it. And as both of you have said, the moon really, she knows something about us. And being with her every month in a ritual, in some kind of routine, in some kind of practice is a great baseline. And also, there is so much more that you can know. And the Cosmic Pulse really is like a great tool to bridge from just those moon rituals to like, well, what comes next? Right? It really is.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I also want to say that there's astrology offers so much information and it's can be so helpful and it can also get complicated really, really, really quickly. And so I think it's important if you're going to work with it every day or just work with it weekly, monthly, know what's helpful and know what's not. If it's not helpful to you, if it doesn't feel right in your body, then just put it aside. You don't need it. And not like this practice is so deep that there's so many ways to go. And so you can pick your own adventure, really, which is what I love about it. So notice when something's not helpful, notice when it is helpful, follow that feeling, and just have fun with it. Like Jana said, if it feels good, if you're having fun with it, then it's working and you're part of something bigger and the universe is on your side. So
Ladies, thank you so much. This has been so much fun to have this conversation. We don't do this as much, just these sort of bigger picture conversations about, okay, like what do we do with all this information? How do we actually use it in our lives? So thank you for that. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you decide to try the Cosmic Pulse right now and for the next week ahead, we're also throwing in a gift. This is our celebration of making the Cosmic Pulse available to the public. And what you'll get with this gift is our magic dates report, which will allow you to add really important astrological transits to your calendar of choice. So your Google Calendar, your Outlook calendar, you can integrate what's coming through the Magic Dates report. So the Cosmic Pulse is going to give you the daily read. It's going to come in real time, and the Magic Dates helps you plan out a little bit. So if you do want to look ahead and be like, when's the best time to launch this or that, or when's the best time to travel, or when might I not want to do that, or at least take the astrology into consideration, the Magic Dates report is going to help you do that. So these things are available to you now. You can go to astrologyhub.com/pulse, check it all out. And we'd love to get your feedback too. How are you using astrology in your life on a daily basis? Have you ever fallen into the trap of being paralyzed by it, like Jana said, or totally disregarding it and then sort of wishing that you had paid a little bit more attention? We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Jana, I know you have a podcast too. So if people want to like follow your work and get to know you better, how would they do that?
Yeah, we're currently on pause, but there's going to be new episodes coming very soon. The podcast is called I'm Really Into That Stuff. It's sort of tongue in cheek. It was something that people say often to me, and it's really just interesting conversations with wonderful humans who are doing cool things in the world of woo. Laura was gracious enough to be a guest on my show a few months back, and it might have been a year ago now, Laura. Yeah.
I think of almost it was last fall. Yeah.
Wild, wild. So yeah, you can go and have a listen to I'm Really Into That Stuff. It's on Apple and Spotify and all the things, and there's a YouTube, and so I'm sure we'll drop some
All
links
right,
down
everybody.
below.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jana and Laura. Thank you for being here. Such a pleasure. And we'll look forward to connecting with all of you on the next episode. Take care.